Hello and welcome. My name is Alan and we are here with a video today talking about climate and the climate change issue that is only getting worse. Before we jump into the video though, I do want to go ahead and remind you we got two ways for you to donate to the channel to help me and the channel out. I have a Patreon account, which is a month-to-month monthly donation system, and a Ko-fi account, which can do much the same, but also allows you to make single one-time donations. Links to both will be in the description box below the video. If you are in financial difficulty or donating would put you there, don't donate. Take care of you, what you need to take care of first, please. Tough enough on everybody right now with the idiots in charge. But if you are financially in a good place and you can afford to donate and want to donate, thank you. I do appreciate it. It's me, myself, and I do all the research, filming, editing, posting, all that good stuff. Personally sworn off doing commercials as a personal choice, and I get no money from the videos as of yet. With that said, let's jump into the video. And right quick, a quick note, sucking on a piece of hard candy, so if you see me kind of stop and pause for a moment, it's usually because of the candy I've got in my mouth. But yeah, temperatures are only getting warmer, while the pedophile in chief is cutting regulations. Because Republicans and the right wing are fucking stupid. But yeah, from The Guardian, world's oceans hit hottest temperature on record in August. Since we've been keeping temperature records way back in the 1800s, this is the hottest it's been. The oceans. So yeah. 21.1 degrees Celsius, which I think was like 70 something degrees. The world's oceans are even hotter than previously recorded on Saturday, according to the latest data. Average surface temperature is 21.1 degrees Celsius, with the rising marine heat a stark indicator of the climate crisis. More than 90% of the heat trapped by carbon dioxide from fossil fuel burning enters the oceans. Hotter oceans exacerbate the sea level rise and extreme storms that threaten billions of people, as well as driving marine heat waves that decimate sea life and undermine coastal livelihoods, scientists warn. A northern hemisphere summer has already been hit by record-breaking heat waves, drought, and wildfires in Europe and North America, and intense rain and typhoons in Asia. It's only going to get worse because we're too goddamn stupid to pay attention to scientists. The ocean heat spike is being intensified by a fast-developing El Niño event, which is set to be the hottest in at least a century. Yeah. The super El Niño. El Niño events are natural climate variations that raise global temperature and change weather patterns with serious impacts around the world. A new El Nino has already delivered low monsoon rain in India, major wildfires in Indonesia, and heightened fire concerns in Australia. The new ocean heat record being set in August is especially remarkable as global sea temperatures are typically the highest in March and April after the austral summer. The southern hemisphere has significantly more ocean area than the north. The record is another clear signal of an ocean undergoing stress. El Nino is adding heat to the system, but it is doing so on top of decades of human-driven warming, and the consequences are already visible. The number of marine heat wave days globally is more than tripled since the early 90s. Warmer oceans contribute to sea level rise because of thermal expansion of the water, increasing flooding risk for coastal communities and low-lying island nations. You're going to have rising waters that force a lot of people on these island nations to try to migrate, and because they're like, the ocean swallowed where we live. We need a place to live. You've got heat changing the ocean's temperature, driving it up, and many species of ocean dwelling animals and plants are going to suffer. Some will go extinct, so it'll affect the food and other things that use animals and plants from the ocean. So yeah, and it's going to cause a number of horrific storms. Yeah, we're looking at a horrible situation. But again, some of you fuckers are too stupid to listen to scientists. What are you going to do? Two key actions are needed to address this record ocean warming. Fossil fuel emissions need to be rapidly reduced. Meanwhile, it is essential that countries protect marine and coastal ecosystems. Kelp beds, mangroves, and marshes absorb carbon, and coral reefs protect against storms and provide habitat. More than 190 governments have committed to protect and conserve at least 30% of the planet by 2030. And now is the time to form or turn that commitment into effective, durable conservation on the ground. Yeah, we knew in the late 70s this was a fucking thing. We knew about climate change then. But the big money freaking lobbyists. Climate change ain't real. Well, guess what, motherfuckers? It's real enough now. It's fucking killing people. It's fucking driving species extinct. But I gotta get my billions of dollars. Fuck your billions. Fuck your billions. That's what I've got to say. Earth's oceans just hit their hottest temperature ever. It's only going to get worse. Yep, 21.1 degree. Breaking a record that was set as recent as 2024. Uh, okay, almost 70 degrees, 69.98 degrees Fahrenheit. Now remember, this is record temperature in the water. So like I said, it'll drive some species to extinction. We'll have much worse storms. Um, and it'll force a lot of people to try to migrate to nations that have more land and area for people to live, no matter how much you racist shitbag fucks don't like it. This is part of your fucking fault because you're too goddamn stupid and listen to the right wing morons in fucking charge. Ocean warming Earth indicator, and that's from NASA. Yeah. Look how slowly it was doing this. Late 60s, early 70s, we start seeing it kind of. We were getting the growth for decades before because this only starts in 1957. The car itself was in the early 1900s, 1910s. We're at 100 here in right about 1979. Just cross that line in 1988. And then look here at 1990, how we start rocketing. Boom, 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 boom. And now we're over 300 heading to 400. So yeah, that is zeta joules, the amount of energy and heat, conductivity in the oceans. Ocean heat content since 92. Here it is in 92, and then you can see how it's just rocketed, and especially rocketed since about 2007, 17. We've poured it on here in the last 9 years. It's accelerating in how it's getting hotter and hotter. And again, it's because some of y'all too goddamn stupid and listen to the right wing morons. And then this animation here shows the ECCO model in action depicting area surface temperatures as ocean currents transport that heat around the planet. Regular color We've got regular colors so far. Starting to see storms coming around the Horn of Africa along the coast. Storms in the Atlantic hitting the East Coast and Caribbean, Mexico. Mm-mm-mm. Hawaii, Australia, somewhere in here is like New Zealand. Or they might be further down here. I'm wanting to say they're up here, but it might be them down there. But you can see the waters moving much quicker as they drag the weather and the temperature around the planet. Okay, it goes around Japan. Let's get storms here. These are the tidal currents. Japan, the Koreas, China, India, Middle East. It's gonna make the Middle East uninhabitable in a few years. Africa, look at all these storms that will start springing up around the southern Cape here, around the coast of South Africa. What's it called? Cape of Good Hope? I'm trying to remember. Jeez. You've got potential hurricanes and stuff all over the place. As we head back over to the Americas, South America here first, you can see the amount of storms out of the Atlantic along the coast. Then, yeah, North America is going to suffer along the coast a lot. We'll be getting some more and more insane storms. And this is just where all the water's getting driven upward, back up towards northern Europe. You're going to see a lot of the Caribbean and stuff suffer. Cuba, Puerto Rico, Yucatan Peninsula for Mexico. Goodness. And again, this is all because idiots believe the bullshit that right-wingers spew, because right-wingers take all that money from lobbyists and billionaires. Don't get me wrong, there are some Democrats I I refuse to call them left-wingers. They're not left-wingers. They ain't been left-wingers for a long fucking time. But they take a lot of money too. Yeah. It's going to get bad. And this is just the ocean warming parts. We also have an ancient climate tipping point that has recently been uncovered. Melting permafrost, 304 million years old, may have released vast amounts of carbon into the atmosphere. So this is permafrost glaciers that are older than many of the dinosaurs. It's older than the Cretaceous and probably older than the Jurassic. I'm not sure about the Triassic, because those three periods that the dinosaurs lived in were quite long. But yeah. Warming up episode 304 million years ago may show how a relatively small climate shift can trigger much larger changes. Researchers studying the event found evidence that thawing permafrost released methane into the atmosphere, helping to drive the dramatic rise in global temperatures during an ancient ice age. Yeah, methane is another greenhouse gas which accelerates atmospheric warming, which is being released thanks to idiots who have allowed carbon and other uh, greenhouse gases to go into the atmosphere and fuck everything up because they're greedy asses. University of Cincinnati professor Thomas Algeo joined an international team led by Lei Yao of the Nanjing Institute of Geology and Paleontology to investigate this rapid warming during the late Paleozoic Ice Age, the second most recent ice age in Earth's history. Their analysis suggests that an initial increase in global sea surface temperature was followed by much stronger warming as melting permafrost released additional methane, and sea surface temperatures ultimately increased by more than 7 degrees Celsius or 12 degrees Fahrenheit. The findings were published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, and the research received support from Peking University in the National Natural Science Foundation of China. According to Algeo, the warming unfolded over tens of thousands of years, with temperatures rising by roughly 1/10 of a degree Celsius every 1,000 years. Modern warming has proceeded much faster. Researchers have measured an increase of nearly 1 degree Celsius in sea surface temperature over only the past century. And the ancient episode may have begun with volcanic activity and been reinforced by cyclical changes in the shape of the Earth's orbit, which alter how solar energy is distributed across the planet. The resulting carbon release appears to have crossed a climactic tipping point that led to massive carbon release and transient global warming. And then we have melting permafrost. Permafrost is the ice in the much colder lands and areas of the Earth. Northern Russia, some of the parts of the Scandinavian nations, and some parts of Canada, and of course the poles have what's called permafrost. Land that has been frozen since they froze millennia ago. But what this does is it releases a lot of things that were trapped in that permafrost that is of the age of when it froze. Because normally the temperatures that hold permafrost is so cold that permafrost don't normally melt. Thus the name permafrost. Even going into summers, it's like you've got some melting of snow and stuff, but there's always this portion of ice and snow that never melts. And it's been frozen for, like I said, millennia. Yeah. And it contains so many things. Greenhouse gases, potentially other forms of life that we have no defense against. You know, certain types of bacteria or maybe algae or something. Nothing huge, because you're not going to resuscitate anything of size, of a decent size. But it's going to be like smaller things that could do damage, because our bodies are not set for it. Because they may have died out over time, but there's forms of them that are frozen in the permafrost. But yeah, it's only going to make things worse. And then, as part of it here, looming rock collapse threatens a Swiss village as thawing permafrost destabilizes the Alps. An unstable mountain rock formation looming above the Swiss village of Kandersteg threatens a landslide that could rival the disaster that destroyed nearby Blatten last year, a collapse scientists linked to thawing permafrost and glacier dynamics. 1,300 residents live in Kandersteg, in Switzerland's Bern Canton, live amid a quintessential alpine landscape of sharp peaks, white glaciers, steep green valleys, and the distant sound of cowbells. Yeah, usually when you think of places like this, they try to copy that kind of feel with the Ricola commercials. Ricola, and they blow the giant horn. Anyway, but a catastrophe looms over the quiet village. A mountainside rock formation called Spitzste, part of a mountain landscape increasingly affected by thawing permafrost, threatens to collapse into the valley in a massive landslide. And again, it was fine until we started warming temperatures. You're you are aware that it's happening, but not afraid, said Bridget Uni, an inhabitant of Kondersteg. She said authorities took all the precautions they could, but then it's nature. It's nature, and you never know. The village is not under immediate threat and has not been evacuated, though plans are in place for an evacuation if necessary. As glaciers and permafrost, the frozen soil, sediment, and rock that acts like a glue holding mountains together, especially in the more frigid regions, um, melt due to higher temperatures caused by climate change. The threat of landslides is rising in the Swiss Alps. And here's a view of Europe if anybody's wondering where it's at. France, Germany, Luxembourg up here. To the south is Italy. And then a little further up here is your England and stuff like that. So, but yeah, Switzerland and the tiny nation of Liechtenstein. They've got those tiny nations like that in Europe. Monaco, Liechtenstein, um, Luxembourg. Luxembourg's a little bigger, but yeah. San Marino. But yeah, the nation of Switzerland has a lot of the Alps, which is a fairly young mountain range. So it's a lot of the mountains are fairly high, and they get covered with a lot of snow and ice. And so a lot of the snow and ice that's been there for, like I said, more than likely millennia is melting because they're in like mid-Europe as far as north to south. Yeah. Yeah, the ice and snow. It's disappearing, it's melting. And it's going to cause some of these rocks that only held on by that ice and snow just come loose. And eventually, you're going to have a rock slide. But yeah, climate change is getting worse, and it's all because we listen to the BS fed to us by politicians who are under the thumb of the rich, the wealthy, the corporations. They knew, we knew, but they had that big money they could lobby out thanks to freaking Supreme Court making stupid decisions. And so it became all about the money, and yeah, now we're kind of screwed as a populace. So, it's kind of proof that when people talk, oh, we need billionaires. No, 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 we don't. Uh-uh. No, we do not. We do not need billionaires, meaning millionaires. We do not need. Honestly, I think there should be a crackdown on them when their policies, the way they do things to make a buck threatens lives. They need to be held as accountable as any regular person on the street hurting or killing someone. I think they should be held accountable. You know, but it's like, no, it was just part of doing the job. Screw you! Maybe we'll break out the fucking guillotine and it's just part of surviving this world. Fucking hell, man. There's so much that needs to be done. But, nah, it's all about that money, that big money, baby. Yeah, I wanted to go ahead and talk about that for a bit, and I've already talked about it for a while, over 35 minutes, so we'll go ahead and end this episode here. As always, educate thyself, think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources, and it can't be a bunch of tinfoil hat wearing sources or anecdotes thrown together to try to make sources. I'll be putting my links and sources in the description box below the video. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.